Loosening at last of travel restrictions as COVID cases hold steady. Fully vaccinated visitors from the EU or US will no longer need to isolate on arrival in England and Scotland.
To be back with family is going to mean a lot after such a long time.
But France is excluded for now, so is it already too late to save our summer season? Also tonight, refusing to cooperate, ITV News understands the Manchester Arena bomb plotter has rejected deradicalisation in prison. Another medal for Charlotte Dujardin, now Britain's most decorated female Olympian. As our swimmers too smash records and set celebrations soaring.
Confirmation.
The family of our latest golden boy feeling that glow.
I just can't stop looking at it. I just sit here and just...
Wave it at us. Wave it at us. Let's see. Oh, look at that.
This is the ITV Evening News with Mary Nightingale.
Good evening. Families and friends who've been kept apart by the long months of strict travel quarantine can now, at last, at least look forward to being reunited. The government's announced it's scrapping quarantine regulations for most travellers from the EU and US coming to England and Scotland, as long as they can prove they are fully vaccinated. Tougher measures will still apply to arrivals from France, who must, for now, continue to isolate. And tonight, Scotland said it would follow the same rules which come into effect on Monday. Here's our consumer editor, Chris Choi.
That's fantastic. We're looking forward to seeing you.
Two brothers and their families separated for a year, one in Southampton, the other in Spain. And though double vaccinated, he's been unable to visit the UK without quarantine.
Just to be home, really. It's nice to be obviously living in Spain. This is our home now. But, you know, to be back with family is going to mean a lot. We've
been looking forward to seeing each other for a long time. It seems like that might be within the next few weeks, and that's extremely good news.
People double vaccinated in the UK don't need to quarantine when returning from amber list destinations, which include Spain, Greece and the USA. But people coming to the UK who were double vaccinated overseas have still had to isolate for 10 days. Quarantine for visitors to England from EU amber list countries, excluding France, and from the USA will now be removed starting on August the 2nd. Scotland will follow suit.
We're now able to take the next step and help people to meet up perhaps with family and friends they won't have seen for a long time.
Empty tour bus seats are one sign of overseas visitors staying away. 500,000 British jobs depend on inward tourism. Foreign visitors to the UK were worth £28 billion a year, but as other parts of the economy have reopened, this sector has not. And the travel sector says today's changes come just too late to save the season.
It will be a huge step in the right direction, but a lot of competitor destinations have already won our visit for this year because of this government's clarity on reopening.
Despite UK tourism's hopes for a post-Brexit boom, some infection experts urge more caution about overseas visitors.
We're once again sort of weakening restrictions rather than strengthening them, and there's no reason to think that the Delta variant will be the last new variant to emerge or enter the UK.
International cruises can also now restart from England. Pandemic and travel restrictions have kept millions apart. Today's move should bring some back together. Chris Choi, ITV News.
So let's go then to our political correspondent, Romilly Weeks, who's at Westminster. Lots of people are calling this good news, Romilly, but Labour says it's reckless.
Yes, they are, Mary. They want to see an internationally recognised system of vaccine passports first, and they are still concerned, they say, about the risk of new variants coming in. Wales is likely to follow Scotland and England's lead on this. It's pretty hard for them not to, although they are suggesting that they are quite worried about it. Northern Ireland haven't yet said what they are going to do. France remains in this category apart, with much harsher restrictions. We are expecting that to change, but it can't be before next week, which is when the next review point is, in the middle of next week. And it is also worth saying that not all countries are reciprocating this, notably countries like the US, whose borders still remain closed to British travellers. But it is great news for all those families who have been separated during the pandemic, who can now be reunited. And it is a hopeful sign in another way, because it does suggest a level of optimism in government about the way things are going here.
OK, Romilly Weeks at Westminster, thank you. And you can find out more about the latest changes to restrictions, as well as other travel updates on our dedicated website. That's itv.com/holidaynews. Moving on now, and ITV News has learned that the terrorist who helped to plot the Manchester Arena atrocity is refusing to take part in his prison de-radicalisation programme. Hashim Abedi is being held in the ultra-secure separation wing at Frankland Prison, to which our UK editor Paul Brand was given unprecedented access. And Paul, this is remarkable, first of all, but it is very disturbing, isn't it?
Absolutely, Mary. And as you say, we've been given exclusive access to 2 high-security prisons where we were free to mix with some of the country's most notorious criminals. And as part of that, for the first time ever, we filmed inside this separation centre at HMP Franklin. That houses some of Britain's most radical minds. These are terrorists who've been separated out from the general prison population because of their risk of radicalising others. So we could see inside the kind of cells they were living in. We could hear them chatting behind their cell doors, shouting to each other through open windows, talking about their nap time, talking about what they'd listened to on the radio. We saw where they exercised, where they cook, where they wash themselves. And among the 5 men housed on that wing, we understand, is the Manchester Arena bomb plotter Hashim Abedi. We actually watched on CCTV as a man we believe to be him socialised with another prisoner who we've identified as a former Taliban fighter, also jailed for terrorist offences. And we've learned that Hashim Abedi is refusing to engage in any effort to de-radicalise him, along with several others on his wing, despite the efforts of staff.
One particular person I was working with, we opened his cell door and he said, "I'm not going to talk to you. You're an enemy of Islam. You're an Islamophobe. You're my enemy."
Is there any convincing that sort of person?
No.
So there are some people that you can't really work with?
There's some people that are so entrenched in their views, in their ideologies and their beliefs that we just become a holding centre for them.
Well, I think this is all part of a much bigger debate, Mary, about how you get terrorists to comply with a system they have so radically set themselves against.
Paul, thank you. And you can watch Paul's full report on News at 10 tonight. Now, the horse rider Charlotte Dujardin today became Britain's most decorated female Olympian ever. 3rd place in the individual dressage took her medals tally to 6, 3 gold, 1 silver and 2 bronze since her Olympic debut at London 2012. There was more British gold in the pool too, as our sports editor Steve Scott reports from Tokyo.
So far, swimming is Britain's Tokyo success story. 3 golds in as many days, the latest in the men's 200 freestyle relay.
And he's starting to swim away now. Look at his feet.
A near world record, with Tom Dean becoming the first male British swimmer
Gold to Great Britain
to win 2 golds in the same games for more than a century, as Duncan Scott finished the job and added to his silver from yesterday. The moment was all too much for James Guy, but then if you can't let yourself go after that, when can you?
It's pretty special. Double Olympic champion sounds pretty good, and the last 24 hours have been a bit crazy.
Bronze in the individual dressage tonight was Charlotte Dujardin's 6th Games medal, expertly guiding her inexperienced Mount Chio with precision and grace. After her 3rd place yesterday, she now stands alone as Britain's most decorated ever female Olympian.
Today I was level with Catherine Granger, and that was a very surreal and proud moment, but now to have beaten that is absolutely incredible, and I'm overwhelmed with the fact that I have achieved all of that.
History suggests you can usually bank on Britain's rowers to return home with a fistful of medals. But today, from 4 finals, the only silver lining a second place for the quadruple sculls. Team GB has won every Olympic gold in the coxless 4 since Sydney in 2000. That winning streak was shattered today thanks to the boat following a wayward path to the finish line. A heartbreaking turn of events for one of the gold medal favourites. But 5 days in, with 16 medals in total and 5 of those gold, this is still Britain's best ever start to an Olympic Games, and by quite some distance. Steve Scott, ITV News, Tokyo.
Well, the great American Olympian Simone Biles was praised for her bravery by a mental health charity today after she pulled out of tomorrow's all-round gymnastics final. Seen here winning gold in the Rio Olympics of 2016, the 4-time gold medalist said yesterday it was important to put mental health first. Well, today, the Director of Mental Health UK said Biles' decision to be open about mental health struggles was a sign of strength. So this is how the medals table looks tonight. Team GB is now in 6th position with a total so far of 16 medals, including 5 golds. Now, the government today laid out its highly anticipated strategy for improving the lives and opportunities of disabled people. They're spending £1.6 billion on helping more than 14 million people in the UK who have some kind of disability. But some charities say the plan does not go far enough. John Ray reports.
I manage my condition. It will never manage me.
Janice Tillett once competed for Britain in the Paralympics. Her medals are a measure of her will to succeed. But life, even with the adaptations inside her home and the help she receives outside it, is too often an obstacle course she cannot win.
The step there. Well, the one thing I have to do in life is plan, and always plan. My disabilities don't define me. I'm still I'm still a person, and I want to give what I can give to society. But I do feel that society does sometimes disable us.
The government aims to close what it calls a chasm of opportunity for disabled people. Among the promises, £300 million to support children with special educational needs, more homes designed or adapted for disabled living, and an access audit for every mainline train station. But the Minister for Disabled People faces criticism that this is all long on ambition, much shorter on immediate action.
Well, I disagree. It's a significant first step towards creating a fully inclusive society.
One example, on railways, you're saying there should be another audit of railway stations, but everybody knows that what disabled people need is step-free access now.
That audit isn't meaning work is stopped. Work is ongoing towards having fully inclusive stations, but the audit will look at the wider picture and again then empower those with real lived experience.
Only a quarter of the railway stations in this country are accessible to me. Hello, I'm going to need, I think, a ramp.
And much more help beyond, says campaigner Alan Benson.
If you want disabled people to get jobs and to work and to pay their taxes, then you need to give them the tools and the ability to actually do those jobs.
A quarter of a century since discrimination against disabled people was outlawed, there is still a long, uncertain journey ahead. John Ray, ITV News.
Still to come on the ITV Evening News, no jab, no entry. The rush to get a vaccine in France. Plus, from paddling pool to gold medal, how Matt Richards brought home his first medal at his first Olympics. Those stories and more after the break. Join me then. And welcome back. Now, with around a third of young people aged between 18 and 29 still unvaccinated in England, The government is trying to get more of them jabbed. So far, it's held back from tough measures like vaccine passports at nightclubs. But in France, as our Europe editor James Mates reports, passports have become a reality.
A French reluctance to get vaccinated? What reluctance? The vaccine centres are packed, appointments booked for weeks in advance.
If the objective was to push people to get vaccinated, it's clear that there have been a direct impact and that people were rushing more after than the 2 or 3 weeks before.
The young in particular, having been told they won't get into clubs, bars, cinemas, sports events without a vaccine certificate, are just getting on with it.
And among your friends, has everyone decided, look, we've just got to get this now?
Not every of them, but a lot. 90% of them.
Because it's very new, we don't know really what is in it, so...
So you were hesitant?
Yes, of course.
But now you know you've just got to get it.
We don't have choice.
Macron's policy is pretty draconian, but it has certainly worked in terms of motivating the vaccine hesitant to get on and get jabbed. But it is also energising the vaccine resistant, driving the whole anti-vax movement.
Macron resign, chanted tens of thousands on the streets of Paris and across France last weekend, protesting against vaccine certificates. Macron had told them, if you're an anti-vaxxer, this time you stay at home, not us. They didn't like that one bit.
I don't want a two-tier society I want freedom of choice.
The vaccines is very bad for us, and we will see that in lots of days or months.
But in the face of the Delta variant, Macron's advisers believed there was no choice but to take a strong line.
Due to vaccine hesitancy also, we had maybe 3 weeks ago or 1 month ago, we had what we call the ceiling, where people began to be hesitant in front of the vaccine. So yes, the Delta variant is a big driver in the introduction of the health pass and other measures as well.
Already there's no getting into a cinema in France without a QR code confirming you've had both doses or a recent negative test. The same with museums. By next week, long-distance travel, bars and restaurants as well. Given how effective the policy has been, France is unlikely to be the last to adopt it. James Mates, ITV News, Paris.
Here, a 60-year-old woman was jailed for 5.5 years today for stealing diamonds worth more than £4 million from a luxury jeweller. Lulu Lucatos posed as a gem expert to covertly swap the diamonds for ordinary pebbles at the exclusive Mayfair store. Rebecca Barry has the story.
It's a luxury jeweller renowned for its diamonds. But Boodles was victim to an audacious heist, £4.2 million worth of them, stolen, swapped for a handful of pebbles. This is the woman who did it. 60-year-old Lulu Lucatos was today found guilty of conspiracy to steal. This CCTV shows her at the Boodles flagship store in Mayfair. She's posing as a gem expert sent to value the diamonds for a Russian buyer. The multi-million-pound heist is easy to miss, but take a closer look. She casually places a black purse containing 7 diamonds in her bag. When the staff member protests, she pulls it out again, except this one is an identical duplicate that instead contained these 7 worthless pebbles. Outside, she handed the gems to an unidentified woman, then fled the UK for France within hours. The crime took place here, among the luxury stores of New Bond Street. It's thought to be the highest value theft of its kind ever committed in the UK. In fact, it seems more like a plot from a Hollywood movie. It was only when the safe was opened the following day and the bag x-rayed that they realised. Lucatos tried to blame her dead sister for the crime, but has now been jailed for 5.5 years. 2 other gang members had already pleaded guilty. But the diamonds she took have never been found. Rebecca Barry, ITV News.
Valour and sacrifice were the words used by Prince Charles today in tribute to fallen police officers, the dedication of a new national memorial. The monument at the National Arboretum in Staffordshire commemorates almost 5,000 officers who've died on duty. Addressing the families of the fallen, the Prince of Wales said he felt profound gratitude for those who'd laid down their lives to keep people safe. And finally, it can take an awful lot of ingenuity as well as determination to overcome an obstacle like lockdown on the path to Olympic gold. So when his usual pool was shut, swimmer Matt Richards, part of Britain's victorious life freestyle relay team, had to find another way to train for glory. Stacey Foster has his story.
Confirmation.
The celebration started in the early hours of this morning at one house in rural Worcestershire.
Just over the moon. I mean, I just can't stop looking at it. I just sit here and just...
Wave it at us. Wave it at us.
But the proud parents had to wait until lunchtime today to finally catch up with their son, who's bringing a gold medal back from Tokyo.
It's when that national anthem plays and the flag goes up, and it just brings it all home at that point. That's when you suddenly feel really emotional. Really, really emotional. Yeah. It's making you go now, isn't it? Just thinking about it. Yeah. Still hasn't sunk in, I don't think. Has it?
No, that's weird. That'll be good. I'm looking forward to getting my hands on that. Yeah. He thinks it's his, but it's not.
Matt Richards is sharing his medal with his mum and dad, who installed a giant paddling pool in their garden during the lockdown so he could carry on training. Months later, he was picked for Team GB.
We had to buy this enormous overground pool, which took forever to fill up, didn't it? And once it was full, it was freezing cold.
Yeah, it was 15,000 litres, so it took a long time with just the garden hose.
And from Great Britain, we've got Matt Richards.
Last night, it was a much bigger pool on a much larger stage, but the 18-year-old made his mark at his first ever Olympics.
How are you celebrating tonight?
To be honest with you, I'll be getting an early night. It's just incredible. I can't wait to come home and just give mum and dad a big hug. So.
And they can't wait to see their boy and what could be the first of many Olympic golds. Stacey Foster, ITV News, Worcestershire.
Oh, proud mum and dad. That's it for now. Nina's here at 10 from me and all the team here. Bye-bye.